From the UNC Hussman School of Journalism and Media, connecting Carolina's campus and community, this is Carolina Week.
Welcome back from spring break and good morning. Thank you for tuning in to Carolina Week. I'm Akshay Gokul.
And I'm Samantha Hoffman. Today we're going to be talking about the effect of tariffs in Chapel Hill and what the tariffs mean.
UNC also made it into March Madness, and we'll be discussing the economic impact. But first, breaking news. This just in, the Trump administration is asking for more time to respond to a federal judge's questions about deportations over the weekend. The administration is using a rarely used wartime act known as the Alien Enemies Act to deport alleged gang members from Venezuela to Central America. The administration deported more than 200 individuals over the weekend. At issue, a federal judge ordered the planes carrying those individuals to turn around. That didn't happen. Senior Justice Department officials argue that the order came too late to stop deportations because the planes were already outside of U.S. territory.
And happening now, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky is speaking with President Donald Trump following talks of peace deal with Russia. The Russian Kremlin Vladimir Putin had agreed to a limited ceasefire deal. However, last night, Russia sent an airstrike on Ukraine. This is what Zelensky and Trump are expected to be discussing right now. In terms of the deal, like land acquisition and Ukraine's entry into NATO, are still being negotiated. These peace deals might be the end to a 3-year war between Russia and Ukraine. This is a developing story. And here on campus, several UNC organizations will be in front of the South Building today at 1 p.m., protesting the arrests of activists Mahmoud Khalil and Leka Cordia. Our reporter Aisha Frazier is at the South Building as they set up for the protest. Aisha, what does it look like out there?
Good morning, Sammy. I haven't seen any of the protesters yet. The building, it's looking like class is normal. There are students out here getting some work done in the weather. Something I have noticed, there are security cameras, mobile security cameras that have been put up in preparation for that rally that we're expected to see here today. It will include a coalition of organizations, including UNC's Students for Justice in Palestine and Transparency. They're expected to be here at 1 p.m. They are organizing to stand in solidarity with Mahmoud Khalil and others who they say were unlawfully detained by ICE for their public activism. Let me walk you through some of their concerns or demands. They are urging for divestment from Israel, an end to what they say is a genocide in Gaza, demanding UNC cut ties with ICE, and urging the university to protect its students. Toby Pacell of Transparency says they won't be silenced.
We're not going to do that. We're going to fight back, and we're going to continue to organize and continue to be visible on our campuses and across all public spaces in the country.
Now, UNC Media Relations just responded to me via email. Let me walk you through some of what they said. They said they support the students' right to making their voices heard in a way that is respectful and in accordance with campus policies, which the Board of Governors recently voted to change last month. I'm live in Chapel Hill. Aisha Frazier for Carolina Week.
Thanks, Aisha.
This protest follows resumed fighting in Gaza, which has left more than 400 dead in the area and breaking a ceasefire deal signed in January. Israel launched airstrikes in the region early yesterday after negotiations for an extended ceasefire failed. The United Nations says 2 of its workers are dead and others hurt. The Israeli Prime Minister is threatening full-scale attacks until the rest of the hostages are released.
And President Trump's executive order banning people who are transgender from the military is on hold after being temporarily blocked by a judge. The executive order from January is under review for potentially violating constitutional protections from sexual discrimination. A lawsuit brought by 20 service members challenging the order will move forward.
The latest monthly inflation report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics is out, and our reporter Catherine Dehart is in the studio to break down what this may mean for the economy. Catherine?
The latest numbers show inflation actually cooled down just slightly in the month of February, meaning prices across the board have gone down. Still, economists are worried about the increasing threat of stagflation, a type of recession. This is when high inflation, low economic growth, and high unemployment all end up working against each other. Right now, inflation is high, sitting at 2.8%. The unemployment rate, which sits at 4.1%, increased last year, and GDP indicators predict a roughly 2% decrease this quarter. All this according to data from the BLS and the Federal Reserve. High inflation generally means the economy is overheating. However, unemployment and decreasing GDP means the economy is slowing down. All three of these things together create stagflation. It can be tricky for policymakers to navigate. The tools used to help one aspect of the problem, like inflation, can be bad for another aspect of the problem, like economic growth or unemployment. It's impossible to say whether stagflation will actually happen, but projected declines in the gross domestic product are raising concerns. We'll see if stagflation fears come true over the course of the next few months. But that's not all the economic news we have for you today. Now we'll turn to our reporter, Sarah Jens, who's live from Leo Gave's manufacturing plant in Chapel Hill with the story on how impacts are being felt.
We are at Leo Gave Metalworks here in Chapel Hill, where I have managed to get my hands on some aluminium, and there is steel over there in that rack. As you mentioned, there is now tariffs imposed on these materials, and the owner says this has already started having an impact. Here is what he had to say.
At Leo Gave Metalworks, they make materials that are tough. These days, business is proving to be just as tough. Leo Gave tells us 25% tariffs on imports from Canada and Mexico drive up costs for business.
I essentially pass through the costs to my client, so they end up paying the additional tariffs.
President Trump says tariffs are part of his efforts to stop the flow of fentanyl. He claims several countries are responsible.
Have placed large tariffs on Mexico, Canada, and China, and they will remain in place until these deadly poisons stop pouring into our country.
It's a decision Gave believes is already making him lose money.
I had to have 4 more of these remade. Well, they cost $44 to make 3 weeks ago, and now they cost $88 a week. And the reason I was given, because I asked, was market conditions. Tariffs, whatever.
According to the National Association of Home Builders, these tariffs are also projected to affect the costs that go into building homes, ultimately affecting house prices.
My wife and I are working towards building a house, and every time we go to price out the design, it gets more expensive. And the tariffs are one more cost. It's one more added premium to everything.
US and Canada officials are set to meet later this week to talk tariffs. For now, businesses like Leo Gaves are hoping to minimize the impact of tariffs as uncertainty looms.
Clients do not like when you give them a number and then a day later or 2 days later, it's a totally different number. It creates a lot of headaches.
This is Sarah Jens reporting.
As you can see, business is continuing here as usual. I'm going to step out the way. There is welding going on. But what the owner says is the volatility of these tariffs is making business planning just that little bit more difficult. We will continue to keep an eye on these tariffs, but for now, back to you guys in the studio.
Thank you, Sarah. Now, I know these tariff impacts are not only impacting the manufacturing industry, but are having impacts everywhere, and consumers are feeling it and responding to it. And many people responding about grocery prices, and what we see with egg prices and bird flu. It's all coming together to sort of create this very messy economic picture that I think many are not taking well to.
And even in Canada, I have some friends who have told me that U.S. products are coming off the shelf. So it is very much affecting both countries. We'll keep you updated on these local effects. Now, coming up on Carolina Week, our reporter Ben Mihaljevic has a new food segment, trying out the food you're missing out on.
We're cranking out maybe one of the cheapest meals in Chapel Hill, maybe one of the best meals in Chapel Hill.
Find out how March Madness is bringing revenue into North Carolina specifically.
A ballpark estimate for this event, I would put it at about $10 million of direct visitor spending, economic impact of new money coming into the market from fans.
and the story of 2 astronauts who are no longer out of this world. We'll be right back. Good morning. Welcome back to Carolina Week. It looks like spring is here to stay in Chapel Hill.
Oh, it most definitely is, and I'm definitely coming back from spring break. I don't know if you can tell, but I got a little tan going on. I was out there in Miami in the heat, soaking it in, and I'm just so glad that I can come back now here to North Carolina and still kind of have a nice mild heat and not have to lug around a coat all day. How about you? What was the spring break plans?
Yeah, I also went to Florida and went on a little Caribbean cruise.
Ooh.
But if you look outside, it actually is still really sunny here in Chapel Hill. We have 70s
It's
today.
beautiful, yes.
So even if people didn't go to Florida like us, you can get some sun.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now here's our meteorologist, Wayne Johnson, to tell us more about how these perfect quad sitting days are going to look like for the rest of the week.
Thanks, Akshay. It's another beautiful day outside here in Chapel Hill. We're already almost pushing 70 degrees as we head to our noon classes. And as we move later into the day today, thank you to whoever brought that tropical weather back with you from spring break, because we're going to be in the upper 70s, possibly even pushing 80 as we head into the late afternoon. But that warm weather is not necessarily here to stay, because we have a cold front coming through right now. It's spanning the Ohio River Valley to the deep south, and it's going to push into our area later in the day tomorrow and cool down things for a little bit at least. But don't let that stop you from enjoying today's really warm, really sunny weather. But tomorrow afternoon is where we're going to see that line of showers move in and temperatures start to cool down. So Friday, it's only going to be in the high 50s to low 60s, but as we head into this weekend, temperatures are going to bounce back up to the lower 70s. It's going to be a little cooler at night, but the sun will be out to enjoy some perfect spring days. Back to you.
In other news, Duke University, along with 44 other colleges and universities, are being investigated by the Department of Education on the basis of, quote, race exclusionary practices in their graduate programs. The department's Office of Civil Rights stated that these institutions may be violating Title VI of the Civil Rights Act for partnering with the PhD Project, an organization that helps students from underrepresented backgrounds obtain business degrees. This comes after the Trump administration issued a memo calling for American universities and colleges to end diversity initiatives or risk potentially losing federal funding. Secretary of Education Linda McMahon said this investigation is an extension of the department's efforts to, quote, ensure universities are not discriminating against their students based on race and race stereotypes. While Duke University has not released a statement in response to the investigation, the university's president has come forward amidst federal changes to higher education, stating his pride in the Duke community's academic freedom and diverse backgrounds and perspectives.
UNC is monitoring President Donald Trump's efforts to cut back the Department of Education. Here's what's at stake for the university. The DOE disperses federal student loans, operates the Pell Grant program, and manages federal student aid and FAFSA applications. Based on data from the College for North Carolina FAFSA tracker, so far about 40% of class of 2025 North Carolina high school students have completed the form. According to UNC, nearly 3% of UNC's federal research funding comes from DOE grants. And over spring break, the DOE released a statement saying it would cut 50% of the department's workforce. The university says it is maintaining communication with North Carolina's congressional delegation as changes occur. Now, are you looking for new places to eat in or around Chapel Hill? Our Ben Mihaljevic has you covered with his brand new segment, Hill's Kitchen. This week, Ben went to Alpha Pie to grab a slice and talk about pizza in College Town.
Welcome to Alpha Pie.
I quickly learned that Alpha Pie is not your typical pizza spot. Alpha Pie only has 3 pizzas on the menu.
We certainly won't expand the menu. Maybe we've talked a little bit about adding a dessert option. That would be probably the only thing that we would add.
I ordered the classic cheese slice. Head chef Hayden Finch told me that making the pizza is a craft that took months to master.
We put a lot of holes in pizzas before we figured out how big we needed the dough balls to be, how much sauce we needed, and how much cheese we needed.
Hayden and owner Josh Goodsell admit that the pizza is not yet perfect.
I think it's always going to be a work in progress. You know, I think we're really close every day, but if we're not improving, we're not changing.
They start by rolling out and discussing the dough.
We get all of our flour from Red Tail Grains. It's a farm out in Mebane. It's about 30 minutes away from here.
After the 3-pound, 4-ounce dough was ready, Josh took over, adding the cheese and homemade sauce.
We then emulsify it with olive oil from Italy, and then we're going to add a bunch of fresh herbs to it and canned tomatoes from Italy as well.
Once it is topped, the pizza goes into the oven for just 6 minutes. Dubbed the biggest slice in Chapel Hill, a slice out of the 30-inch pie requires 2 plates. Josh did not come up with the size of the pizza, he grew up with it.
But the pie we're trying to recreate here is from a place on South Street in Philadelphia called Lorenzo's. That was there when I was a kid, and we used to skip school, go to South Street, grab slices, or grab a slice before a punk show.
The size and business model pair perfectly in a college town.
We've kind of cracked the code a little bit. It's fast, it's cheap, and it's good.
I can confirm all 3.
That is really good. Great flavor. Crust not too thick, but still crunchy as well. It's definitely not soggy pizza. The cheese, you can tell, is fresh. Great slice. Absolutely great slice.
Thanks, Ben. What a great review. I know what I'm getting after this show, and it's going to need 2 paper plates.
I know that's right. Now for the latest in the North Carolina legislature, schools, cell phones, and lawmakers. Right now, North Carolina legislators are debating whether or not your child should be able to use devices in schools. Our Landon Job talked to parents and experts about the concerns.
I'm a little frustrated.
That's what Renee Seckel, a Wake County mom, says about this, the latest attempt by the General Assembly to limit cell phone use in schools.
We know that this legislature has refused to fund our schools, but now they have time to pass nonsense bills.
The bill would require school districts have a policy regulating cell phones and other devices during class time. Exceptions would be made for emergencies or if their teacher allows them, among other things. While not all parents are on board, a Pew Research Center study last year found that 68% of parents K through 12 surveyed nationwide support banning phones during class. Just 24% oppose the idea.
Cell phone bans have actually led to a decrease in disciplinary reports and suspensions.
Bob Libke, director for the Center for Effective Education, a conservative research center, is on board with the bill.
It's important to note that 77 of North Carolina's 115 school districts already have, and similar to the one we're discussing.
Some, like Chatham County, are using pouches to store phones during class. Others, like Durham County, have a student code of conduct that says cell phones need to be turned off during class time.
Honestly, we're in a really good place here because our current policy, the student code of conduct that I just mentioned, aligns pretty closely with what's coming through the pipeline.
However, parent Renee Seckel says the Senate bill falls short. She wants more from the legislators.
And if this bill came and said, hey, teachers, let us know what you need to enforce a reasonable cell phone policy and we'll provide it, I would be singing hallelujah.
The bill has passed through the Senate and is waiting on a vote from the House.
March Madness is bringing more than great basketball to the Triangle. It's also a big win for the local economy. The Greater Raleigh Sports Alliance says it expects March Madness to bring more than $10 million in economic impact. Raleigh's Lenovo Center will host the men's NCAA tournament this weekend, with NC State as the official host. Meanwhile, UNC, Duke, and NC State will also hold first and second round games for the women's tournament. This means there will be not one, not two, but 4 host sites in the Triangle this weekend. Among this year's travelers is Dave Smallwood, a Vermont native and dedicated University of Vermont fan. He says he's eager to watch the women's games.
It'll be nice to get some great weather, watch some great basketball. I'm a UVM fan, but I'm a sports fan.
Our group, the local organizing committee, and all of our partners, we roll out the red carpet.
All right, so thank you, Cameron, for joining us from Sports Extra. We have so much fun things happening with basketball. I was really feeling like a Tar Heel last night, and then hearing about these big games. What can we expect for the rest of Carolina athletics?
Yeah, it's like Dave said, it's that time. Fans are repping their teams, brackets are being made, and the teams are battling it out to bring home that national championship. We'll be back with more on March Madness after the break.
Hi everybody, my name is John. Today we will be doing a presentation. Who are you? Thank you.
How have you been?
Okay, so you can see here that
Welcome back to Carolina Week. Now we're going to head over to Sports Extra's Cameron Ely on all things Carolina athletics.
Thanks, Samantha. Last night, some faith was restored in our men's basketball team. Let's get into it. The Tar Heel men's basketball team trekked to Ohio to take on San Diego State in the play-in round of the NCAA tournament Tuesday night. Carolina came away with a dominating 95-68 win. That's right, take that, Doubters. And we'll now play Ole Miss in the round of 64 on Friday. And now to talk Carolina lacrosse. This week, both the men's and women's team received ACC honors. Owen Duffy is Offensive Player of the Week following his 6 goals and 2 assists against Jacksonville on Sunday. And on the women's side, Ashley Humphrey is Offensive Player of the Week for the 2nd time and co-National Player of the Week. Humphrey has netted 22 goals in her past 4 games and reaching 100 career goals as a Tar Heel, along with 200 assists and 300 overall points. Be sure to tune in for more exciting updates on Carolina athletics on Friday on Sports Extra. We'll be back after this.
Welcome back to Carolina Week. Now a story we've all been waiting for here on Earth and above.
I know that's right. 2 NASA astronauts are back on Earth after their mission went a little longer than expected. The 2 astronauts, Suni Williams and Butch Wilmore, blasted off last summer expecting to be in space for a week. They ended up staying on the International Space Station for 9 months due to complications with their aircraft. The aircraft splashed down off of the Gulf Coast of Florida yesterday evening.
Akshay, I learned that they were there for 286 days, but this is even close to the record of 437 days about 30 years ago.
Oh my gosh.
Can you imagine being in space for that long?
I can, but do you know what would be their first thing that they do once they land?
I think the second they come down, this is the most dangerous part of the whole space travel also.
I'd be terrified.
They come down, they land in the ocean. I think they want some real food.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I mean, we've made major developments. They gotta get on, try some new food, catch up with politics, and move on. But that's all the time that we have here for today.
Thank you for watching Carolina Week, and tune in to Carolina Aurora tomorrow morning at 8:45. We'll see you next Wednesday.